It's an endless conversation, or so it seems. When will it end is the question on the lips of so many. The National Assembly has asked that the president should address them, especially concerning this particular issue, because they, more than 450 of them, represent, according to NPC figures, 206 million Nigerians in the National Assembly. And for them, they need to be able to have something to take back to their constituents. What are the expectations, especially in the light of current experiences that we're having in various parts of the country, irrespective of what region it is? Two gentlemen joined us this morning to have this conversation with us. Adam Sabo is a former Assistant Director, Internal Security of the SSS. He's a fellow, International Institute of Professional Security and Intelligence Consultants. He is a security and intelligence consultant. He joins us along with Alfred Ononugbo, who is a forensic investigator and security consultant. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time this morning. Let me begin with you, Mr. Abu. This is where we are.
Yeah.
And one of the major questions, one of the major questions on the lips of so many is, what are we not getting right? We have had so many suggestions, many of them rightly, many of them, some believe there are political considerations. What exactly is it that we are missing that's allowing this to continue and we just get behind it and not ahead of it?
Thank you very much. Thank you, viewers and the presenter. I think the issue is from the beginning, like the Army spokesperson said that he was there some 20 years back. From the beginning, we've not been doing the right thing. And because we were not responding appropriately to the threat that was existing then, the situation continued to expand. Take for instance, at the time the boys were being used as thugs, nobody felt anything, no government had felt anything was wrong for them to do the right thing by stopping thuggery and looking at developmental agenda in that region and in fact in other parts of the country. And when it continued unabated, you discover that even the security forces were somehow taken aback when they started. We didn't have enough capacity building to deal with the situation. We don't have enough logistics to deal with the situation. And the citizenry were not properly indoctrinated against terrorism. And so, and you know, one of the major objectives of terrorism is to create fear into the minds of the citizenry so that they can have their way. All these have been going on. And you remember in the former administration, we accused them, of course, rightly too, that they were not doing enough. And when the present government came in, they tried their best. I think at the initial stage, they seemed to be overcoming the terrorists. But I remember vividly in one of my presentations, at that time they were saying they have been defeated, they are negotiating. In every terrorist activity, or even insurgency, when they are beginning to slow down, you should know that they are planning other strategies. And when they came back this time around, they began to do new things. They went into kidnapping, robbery.
Just a quick one, Mr. Abu.
Themselves.
Just one moment, Mr. Abu. You just said now that they slowed down at some point and we didn't take advantage. How far back was this, and
Yes.
whose responsibility was it to have stepped in to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Of course, at that time that they slowed down, it was the responsibility of government
government. Kindly, which agency of government should have been ahead of it?
The federal government, who is in charge of all the national security forces, was supposed to have, within that period, provided them. You have heard of cries of inadequate logistics, arms and ammunition, and so on and so forth. If you look at most of the fights we have taken so far, I do not want to say that we have been very, very reactive. But there are very many occasions the air power has been going to their camp, dealing with the situation. But because the Northeast was not effectively checkmated, the Northwest came up and became something even more, deadlier than, so to say, than the North, because that is expanding at a very faster rate than even the Northwest, taking over from Sokoto down to Niger, to Niger State and so on. So I think at that period in time, we needed to do more. We needed to have taken the fight to their enclave. If you look at most of the time, even sometimes they beat us to it by ambushing our fighting forces, taking surprises and things like that. So those are the things that brought us to where we are today. And they have spread so much. Don't forget that at the time we think they have gone down, they were spreading across the country by way of setting themselves where to kidnap, to finance their operations. Now that some of the international channels of financing are being blocked here and there, that is the reason why we are where we are today. And Nigerians, again, have not been supportive enough because they believe that government has not been doing, to their own understanding, enough. So in most cases, even the people they are saying they should be recruited.
One moment, Mr. Abu, just one moment. When you say Nigerians haven't been supportive enough, just what do you mean?
Yes. What I mean is, okay, if you open any media these days, it's condemnation. How many of them, how many Nigerians have been really coming out to say, okay, this is our role in terms of even ordinary intelligence? I don't want to even use the word intelligence. Let me use information. How many of them have been providing information to the fighting forces, the intelligence arm of the various organizations?
Okay, all right, Mr. Abu. Yes, just one. Let's take the opening comments of Mr. Onanugo as well. He's a forensic investigator and security consultant. Well, this has been going on for long enough. I'm sure you probably want to, first of all, react to some of the things that you've heard.
Yeah, first, good morning, everybody, and thank you for having me on. It's rather worrisome that we are at the point and this stage in our national history. How we arrived here is what most people are struggling to identify. I also want to thank Mr. Abu for coming on. I appreciate some of his comments. It's scary. Nigerians are in pains. And in every conflict, what people often see are the fallouts. Not many people pause to ask who actually are the beneficiaries of these conflicts and what purposes do these conflicts serve. Crime is older than humanity. But in the Nigerian context, we've had more than enough. It's scary. It's very worrisome. Even the government...
Yeah, Mr. Onanugo, you said that in every conflict, there are beneficiaries. Could you expatiate, because some will be wondering who would be benefiting from conflicts where people are dying?
Exactly what I meant. There's the local and there's also the international dimension to the benefits. For the local, sometimes it sounds political purposes. Some other times it's economic. Sometimes it's even individuals that are deriving benefits from conflicts. And then on the global scene, of course, it affords some countries opportunities to sell weapons or to control the political direction and interests of weaker nations. At some point also, you find out that there is a territorial contests. People want to control territories because of either resources in those environments. So all these things we put together. And I think Nigeria has been hit so much by these conflicts because first, we're naturally endowed and interests have been registered on Nigerian resources, probably until we began to hear certain things recently. And then internally, we've had ethnic political drives, we have religious issues, and of course, the challenging and crippling economic interests. So these are some of the interests. And some people somewhere benefit from these conflicts. Without those
Are these
benefits,
likely
the huge
beneficiaries that you mentioned now, are these beneficiaries that you talk about, are they known to the authorities?
certainly they should be known to the intelligence, let me borrow the word, the intelligence communities. But you know, there's a protocol. There's a diplomatic protocol in pronouncements. There are measures they use to check and due diligence on some level of discussions that inhibit people from either coming forward when those threats are identified. You don't escalate them. They try to manage, micromanage. They also weigh potential benefits mutually shared by the interests. So these are some of the conflict, the breeding ground for some of these problems. They are very well known. We are not, for instance, the ammunitions being used by the terrorists, for instance, were not produced in Kano. They were not made in Afa, in Enugu State. They were not, so someone produces them. Someone paid for them. Transactions are not done in purchasing these weapons from nowhere. So there are tracks. And in forensic, we say that there can be no contact without a trace. So that's the challenge we have.
You say we're challenged in terms of tracing, contacting, or just really going straight up for the source of this issue? Where is the challenge here?
I think, first of all, the challenge first comes with our political institutions and, of course, our national orientation. Sadly, Nigeria has been plagued by ethnic politics, and sometimes religious dimensions are added to these challenges. So when you feel that your benefactors serve or declared interests, you'll be hesitant to push those things out. I'll give you a few instances. Just roll back a little bit. When Nigeria plunged themselves into ethnic politics, political parties were identified on ethnic lines, and then political leaders began to promote religious interests just to win the mandate of the people. These were time bombs laid over the years. They eroded basic patriotism. We weakened the structures of nationalism so that if I see, for instance, a northerner from the northeast, a Fulani man or a Kanuri man in distress or in a situation in Ijebu-Ode, my attitude should be to, first of all, make sure that he is safe and secure. I will not begin to identify him first as his ethnic with his ethnic bearings or his religious inclinations. So we lost it there. We lost patriotism. We lost that passion to make our nation great, to make it a place for everybody. We began to fight. So it moves into, for instance, recruitment into services, whether it is security services or public services. There are strong ethnic bias.
But you
To
know,
the extent that we have
one of the places that well, you're not meant to see such is the National Assembly, what we call a place for everyone. And well, that will form a major part of our conversation moving forward, because We've seen different issues raised on security at the floor of the Senate and the House of Representatives. And perhaps the biggest one in recent times is that invitation to President Muhammadu Buhari to address now the joint session of the National Assembly on what is being done about security in Nigeria. So let me take on Mr. Abu first on this one. So we're counting down to that address, interaction, closed-door session. We're not entirely sure what it will be with the National Assembly, that's the President and the National Assembly. For you, I mean, seeing the trends regarding security, what will make a great appearance by the President at the National Assembly tomorrow?
Thank you very much. I think the President is going to tell them what he has been doing, what he's doing now, and what he intends to do. But before I make that comment, let me make comment on the National Assembly themselves. I want Nigerians to look at their representatives. What have they done as means of their contribution to national security in this country? Now, if you look at the funding of national security agencies, the army, the armed forces, the police, and so on. If you look at it, over all this while, since the existence of this country, it has been the responsibility of federal government. It's just of recent that they said, okay, let there be a police fund or something like that. Over the years, some of us who are practitioners, we saw the massive load of funding on the part of government, federal government, and we discovered that they alone will not be able to fund these agencies appropriately to provide the necessary logistics. It is the responsibility of the National Assembly to look at what the role of the three tiers of government will be so that they can contribute to funds. I tell you that if a local government chairman gives any DPO 50,000 naira today to report their vehicle, they believe they are favoring him because there is no any law. It's just like some state governments that are even helping some of the agencies to buy one vehicle or the other. They are doing it because they are the chief security officer of their state, but there is no any law that backs it up, for them to provide these resources. Can't the National Assembly over these years think about it to appropriate to the various tiers of government adequate funding that can be, channeled to these agencies for them to perform? It is because these agencies don't have enough to perform. That is why
Well, we're having some difficulty with your connection, but we'll stay in touch just to rectify that. But Mr. Honorable, he was talking about the role of the National Assembly in security just before he, touched on the President's appearance tomorrow. But touching on what he said, really, regarding the National Assembly's role, before we talk about the President, how would you rate the National Assembly really in this whole security challenge? Because, there are three tiers of government, so you expect that the legislature would at least pull their weight in this. So how would you rate the National Assembly?
First, I would like to, without any bias, apologize to Nigerians for our ignorance. I think, to me, and I want to be honest with myself, I see elements of hypocrisy in our National Assembly, and I think people might be scared to make such bold statements. The recent challenge we had with COVID-19 exposed a lot of things. Nigerians are quick to forget. We found out we have no properly equipped medical establishments, basic promises that every politician makes to their communities. And I think these are some of the foundations and fertilizers for insecurity in our society. And now some of these men have not demonstrated that kind of commitment to ensuring peace and stability in our communities. Going into politics, they're the ones who engage on authorized means to win elections at all costs. So you now sit back to wonder, What do you think that man will be doing at the National Assembly? And because of the media coverage being a National Assembly member enjoys, we see people talk things they do not believe in and say things they don't do. So I don't expect any new thing coming out of the meeting from the National Assembly. These are, I mean, people should speak up. They should be people with, we should naturally see their commitment to the safety of our communities or senatorial zones. They shouldn't wait until this crisis takes over the whole place and engulfs the entire nation before going forward to Mr. President. The media have been screaming and shouting about the state of insecurity across the entire country. People have been kidnapped, communities have been sacked, and you wonder where have these National Assembly members been?
Yes,
So
just
I
one
think
moment. Just one moment, Mr. Onongo. The responsibility of members of the National Assembly is to make laws, all right? And that's significantly they would say that they have been doing. But then a good number of times they also pass resolutions, like counsel to the executive on certain things to do. And it was just recently that the president of the Senate was saying that the president should endeavor to take their resolutions very, very seriously. The resolutions are not as binding as an act, a bill that they have passed to the president and the president has signed. So when you say you do not have any confidence or any much expectation from this National Assembly, do you think they have enough powers to be able to get anything done that they have not done, or that their resolutions are what they are limited to?
to be honest with you, they have total powers, absolute powers. These are men with a mandate of over 200 million Nigerians to go to the National Assembly and represent our interests. There can be no other power beyond that. They were elected to bring to the table the interests of those who gave them the mandate, which are the Nigerian people. If they were there to serve Nigerian people, I don't think seeing themselves and making excuses with the fact that they were lawmakers. Lawmakers, you don't make laws when there are no need for such. You make laws based on the needs of the people. For instance, I think they make laws that sometimes sounds quicker. Let me use the word quicker. They make quicker laws that serve their interests, like sitting allowances, benefits. Nigerians have been shouting about their allowances. Teachers are paid peanuts, universities have been closed down, and they are more comfortable with taking whatever that they collect from sitting in the National Assembly. So these people are not in tandem with the actual needs of our society and even their lifestyles. How can my representative visit my community with a cocktail of armed police guards? When he's campaigning, I can reach him easily. When he becomes elected, he becomes invisible and inaccessible. So they've lost touch with the actual Nigerian people. And
Mr. Honorable, like you said, he or she is your representative, basically saying that you gave the person a mandate. You have some sort of power. I mean, the Constitution says you could recall your representative. So as much as you say that that arm of government is not doing enough, isn't that also saying that the people they're representing who gave them the mandate are probably not even putting them to task enough?
Well, unfortunately, you are correct. We probably do not understand the derivables we stand for in democracy. We do not understand democracy to that extent because we are used to creating lords and gods. And when we create them, they will naturally lord over us. They will be God over our lives. Probably we should do more. Maybe when we have men with vision, men with, passion for nationhood. We will educate our people and give them the opportunity to make such demands on us, but not when even the system in itself serves the exclusive few. And I'll give you an instance. We have more policemen, for instance, guarding these guys than police posts in some of our communities. you will find 2-3 people in a police post securing a community of about 500 to 1,000 people. And a senator or a House of Reps or even councillor from their community moves around with 2-3 armed police escorts. That's part of the culture that the people do not see any
Son
place for themselves. So,
you would recall that the Inspector General of Police has actually said that all those officers be recalled from such VIPs, as they are called. But then we'll continue this conversation when we return from this break. Just stay with us. Well, thanks for staying with us. Mr. Abu, you were saying the other time something about the National Assembly not, legislating enough to support the efforts we're making at winning this battle. But then, isn't it sufficient or as significant at least for the members of the National Assembly to ask questions of the monies that have been budgeted to fight insecurity over the years? Your mic might be on mute, but let me go back to Mr. Ononugbo while you are trying to resolve that. Well, so Mr. Ononugbo, you heard him say the other time that, the National Assembly is also probably responsible, partly because, in terms of funding, they haven't done enough to ensure that the National Assembly the security operatives get enough. How do you respond to that?
I'm in total agreement with him, and I think that reinforces my position about their hypocrisy. Unfortunately, I have to use that choice of word with due respect, and I will be quick to add, not because I approve all the actions of Mr. President, but you see, there are layers of platforms in governance. The president cannot be the commander-in-chief and also be the infantryman on the street and on the road. He cannot be the police officer in the communities. He cannot be the taxi drivers. So every arm of the society, when we play our roles, we will get the results that we expect in our environment. So the National Assembly...
I want you to react to something, Mr. Ononugbo. Just one moment. I would like you to react to respond to what he said earlier about, the cooperation or lack of it of members of the community. But let me take him back. I think we have him back now. So, Mr. Abu, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. You see, like you're talking about the National Assembly. I am saying that if they come back, if they ask questions, what would they do thereafter? We are aware of how much was looted from the arms fund in the former administration. Like my colleague there was saying that there are people that benefit from these crises. Those people that took those funds benefited from the crisis. But what has been the role of the National Assembly? But I want to say here that it is not that they don't have the power to do something. But like my colleague has been saying, but because they are always only interested in what they benefit from. But let me leave them part. Let me not waste my precious time on that. What is the president going to say? And what is going to be the way forward? I want to say this.
President will say, Mr. Abu. Just one moment. Just one moment. Before we get to what the president will say, there are a good number of ministries, departments, and agencies who are taxed constitutionally and otherwise to fight insecurity. One of them is the department where you worked before, the Department of State Security. And, of course, being an agency responsible for giving intelligence information, to use the word you used earlier, one would wonder, why do these things catch us unawares?
You see, this is the thank for this opportunity for Nigerians to understand. Understand that every intelligence organization all over the world is an advisory body. It is not an enforcement organization. It is to provide intelligence, and it is now, what is intelligence? Intelligence is that information that has been analyzed for the purposes of policy making or security operation. Now, if they don't use it for security operation, that was what happened even before the commencement of this Boko Haram of 15. There was intelligence, but we never dealt with it. And even when we were supposed to deal with it, we did not deal with it. We did not allow. Don't forget that when kidnapping started, the government in power, even with credible intelligence, said there was nothing like that. And
just
today,
to
where
clear,
are we?
pardon me, just to get, Nigerians to understand better. So you say the DSS basically gathers intelligence and they don't enforce, but we've seen the DSS arrests time and again. So is that going out of the constitutional role of the DSS or what?
No. See, let me say this. Have you seen where, except in special operations, no doubt about that. But the kind of the operation we have here in the Northeast, in the Southwest, this is an operation that defense forces are also involved. But you see, it is not about intelligence not being there, but it's also about other factors such as logistics, such as funds, such as motivation for the fighting forces. You have heard of so many video of the cries of our fighting forces over certain issues. So this thing is supposed to be addressed holistically. And so if it is not addressed, you are aware that someone, a very senior officer, was punished of recent because a video came on board about their experience. These are the issues. So we should be able, as a country and as leaders, as political leaders, because all these powers are vested in the leadership. And these resources are in the hands of the leadership.
Yeah, Mr. Abu, just when you say that intelligence information is gathered and not used, perhaps then you want to speak to the channels through which those, intelligence information get to the right persons or not. Because if those information do not get to the appropriate authorities, then there could be a problem. So what is the mode or the channel of communicating these information? And if there is any instance that you know that information got to the authorities, whether at the federal or the state level, and it wasn't acted upon, it would be good to hear.
Well, I want to say that some of the questions you are asking are classified information, which, if notwithstanding my retirement, I'm not supposed to divulge that. But let me say this, that intelligence is not provided for most of the operations that are ongoing. Don't also forget that even all these other agencies also have intelligence departments. Now, if you provide intelligence and the resources in embarking to embark on the operations are not adequate, what will you do? You will make use of the little that you have, and you'll achieve that objective to the extent to which you are able to do. These are some of the things that we are seeing. But I want to say this, that even the intelligence that we are talking about is not something that is not ongoing. Like I said before, how about the time we said we have decimated Boko Haram? And some of us are saying we should not rely on Boko Haram being decimated. It might be a ploy for them to plan and begin to do things differently, which came up. I mean, these are things that it is not about the intelligence not coming in or not communicated to the appropriate authority or whoever it is. And don't forget, you cannot come back to your principal to say, why did you not do this? You don't direct them.
Well, gentlemen,
rather, they direct you.
Right. Gentlemen, so as we wind down now, we would like to still preview the president's visit to the National Assembly tomorrow, because a lot of Nigerians are looking forward to that. Yes, we have classified information that might not be divulged out there, but the president has agreed, to go to the National Assembly. So clearly, there's information that he wants to give out to Nigerians, well, the National Assembly, and of course, by extension, Nigerians. So, Mr. Ononugbo, first, do you see that meeting going on as scheduled? Because there have been talks, here and there about the possibility of the president being prevailed upon not to attend that meeting. But for you, do you see it going on as scheduled?
In fairness, I think we live in a country where anything and everything is possible. I'll be glad if the meeting goes on schedule for one particular reason. It will provide Nigerians the opportunity to see the commitment, to see the concerns of those who have given a mandate to lead us. It would also provide us opportunity to watch and see if they would admit they failed or give us a score sheet on how much they are faring. The last thing is that I hope and I wish that that meeting will be translated to actions, you know, and there should be some level of financial discipline going forward. Because so long as, even from what Mr. Abu was sharing, you will understand that even within the agencies, we have issues. And like I said when we started, when there are conflicts, if you look closely, someone is benefiting and someone feels shortchanged. And then you begin to keep back what you should naturally put on the table. So we must build back that trust. We must build back the commitment to take back Nigeria and make Nigeria our own. We must own every responsibilities that are placed on our hands. The National Assembly members and even Mr. President, the Commander-in-Chief, should take back Nigeria. Let them become owners and make us stakeholders. And then we will begin to see things. And then let there be appropriate punishment for breaches, for compromise. If an intelligence of national implication is placed on the table of people paid with taxpayers' money and they did nothing, I think very often we don't see anybody being punished for that. People should pay the price for the death of every Nigerian if they've been paid, equipped, and given the resources to do that. And on the part of the government, I need to beg us, when we are sourcing equipment and things we use for services, let's get authentic information, get it from the right sources, and put it in the hands of the right people. We can go on and on. These are things we all talk about every day. But
Well,
I look forward to that meeting.
okay, definitely. I know a lot of Nigerians also look forward to it. But Mr. Abu, there have been a lot of questions about the mode of this meeting. Will it be an address, some sort of interaction, a closed-door session? I mean, you're a security person, so you understand the peculiarity of this kind of meeting. So what should it be like? Should it be just an address, or people should be able to ask questions, or in fact, it should be closed to Nigerians? What do you expect?
I thank you very much. I want the two to go together. I want the president to address them. And again, let there be interaction between the president and his team. And then this is because we want to see what they will do after the meeting. The issue is, the one thing I want to correct here is that this crisis that has remained somehow unabated is not something that I just started in the life of this administration. If we had dealt with it earlier, even the Libyan factor, which has led to proliferation of arms into our country, would have not been there. So it is something that these National Assembly members should put politics aside and bring the national interest to bear in their contribution and deliberation with the president and his team, because we need to checkmate these guys. It is not, you know that now the issue is not about Southwest, the issue is about every part of this country. And the earlier we do something to stop it from expanding, the better for us. It is because the thing has stayed this long that people are beginning to read the religions.
Yeah, perhaps that is also the reason the president had that meeting with state governors. And at that meeting, he proposed that they should interface with their traditional rulers for local intelligence gathering, so the authorities, the security operatives themselves, can have things to work with. How significant do you think, how far-reaching do you think that can be?
Thank you very much. Are we now saying that all these years the governors have not been interacting with their community leaders and traditional institutions ever since we have been having these security challenges? So you can see what I am saying. These are things we are supposed to have been doing over the years, and by now we should have seen result. Anyway, it's better, late than never. But that still does not stop them from interacting with the president, particularly in the area of funding. If there is any deficit, and they are the one that approved fund, and there's something they can do about it, or there's a new arrangement on funding that will make funding easier for purposes of capacity building and logistics. Like my colleague said, we need the world is ruled by technology, and we need to apply them, not even just for the fighting forces, but the requirements of the various security organizations that are not appropriate need to be looked into, and so that we can find they can have something to do. But I also want to say this, that notwithstanding, Nigeria should not lose hope in our ability. Don't forget, terrorism is not a war that you can fight for just a short period and you think it's forgotten. Think about
yes.
Afghanistan, think about Somalia, and all
that
these
is
nations.
that is noted. Let me very quickly ask Mr. Ononugbo something that you said earlier, and I think I would like to take Mr. Ononugbo's opinion on that as well. If you can hear me, Mr. Ononugbo, Mr. Abu said earlier that we don't seem to be getting, government doesn't seem to be getting enough support or cooperation from the citizens in the fight against insurgency. Do you agree with him?
I totally agree. I agree because we cannot expect the few people in government to perform magic. They don't have the capacity.
Citizens should do about this that they have not been doing.
Yes. They need to depend on us. And that means we should believe in that. First of all, the quality of people we elect to offices should be people we can trust with information. It's pertinent and sad to note that the Nigerian people do not have confidence and trust in some of our political leaders. Howbeit, we need to know that whether they are doing the right thing or wrong things, we are to hold ourselves responsible and accountable for their failures. Even when we're electing people, we should make sure we elect the right people. So Nigerians have failed the leaders as well. I totally agree with you.
Right. I'd just like to also ask you, would you be disappointed if that meeting does not hold? Like I said earlier on, there are feelers that maybe this might not hold. Would you be disappointed, especially because some have said, well, this is security, it's quite sensitive. You can't discuss everything about security out there. So will that be a major bummer for you?
Well, from the security point of view, for the meeting not to hold, there must be some covert reasons why the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will decline from engaging and having dialogue with the members of the National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I look forward to that meeting, and I believe that the President have competent protocol officers and security advisors to guide him, because where the nation is, I mean, without deviating, the NSAS, the terrorism, kidnappings, the stories are far too many for nothing to be seen to be done. Even if they will not do anything, I think their motion should be observed. Let them meet and do the usual. Use the media, tell us what they have decided, and then we will also wait for them. But I need to beg Nigerians, let's make 2023 a different year in the history of this country. Let's make choices that can impact on our national lives.
No, Mr. Ononugbo, that will mean different things to different people, but well, I think they're internalizing it their way.
I'm talking about voting. We should vote people that should help us achieve better Nigeria for us.
Okay, no, well, that clears the air. So, Mr. Abu, I mean, the same question I put to Mr. Ononugbo about the president's appearance. Just in case he fails to appear, would you be disappointed?
well, it won't be disappointment. The issue is nobody really wants the president to be coming to talk if the needful is done, even if he does not come. But you see, even if you look at the National Assembly members you are talking about, and even most of the political leaders, they got to those offices through what I would call electoral terrorism, kidnapping, ballot snatching, and all the like, But the thing is, let the required thing be done. They could have a way, the executive can still meet with the government, with the president and his team, and ask questions about certain areas that they need clarification and what they can do. But up till now, they have not come up.
I
yet again.
we lost that connection there. Well, gentlemen, we definitely have to look forward to that conversation with the president and members of the National Assembly. A critical thing that you both have said is that, perhaps a little more funding and then a lot more cooperation from the citizens. Also allow the citizens themselves to engage with you on this. But we have to thank you very much for your time this morning. Adam Sabo is former Assistant Director, Internal Security of the SSS. He is a fellow of International Institute of Professional Security, as well as a security and intelligence consultant. He joined us, along with Alfred Ononugbo, who is a forensic investigator and security consultant. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and thoughts.